welcome to the world of digital davers. I am celebrating my first 15 years on the World Wide Web. We all call it the Internet now, or the web, or the interwebs, or a dozen other cute names. But I think for this purpose, the World Wide Web better fits. So, come along with me as I take you from Windows 3.0 and CompuServe to Windows 7 and Facebook and YouTube.
Hi, I'm Davers. May 30th, 1994. 15 years ago, that's when I first signed on to the World Wide Web with a company called CompuServe. I don't know how many of you remember them, if any. They were kind of the forerunner of America Online, but for I think $6.95 a month, you could be online for a whole 20 hours. And then if you went over that, it cost you $1.95 an hour. At the time, 20 hours, hell, that seemed like a long time. And unfortunately, I soon found out that it wasn't a long time. And I ended up with overages, and the overages started getting bigger and bigger, and it was getting quite expensive. $7 for 20 hours, but then the next 20 hours it cost you 40 bucks. Whoa. Anyway, at the time I was using an old, what we now call laptop. It had no hard drive. It ran off floppy disks. It had 2 slots, one for the operating system and then a second one for data or programs. When I think back on it now, it was kind of a crazy system, but it worked at the time. It ran Windows 3.0. No start button, no screen resolutions, no video player, very little other than a few business type apps and several games. But I was able, with CompuServe, signing on to CompuServe, to start my first web page. Basically, it included a short bio and a few pictures, which at the time there were no digital cameras, so the pictures had to be taken the old-fashioned way and taken to the drugstore for developing. And then when I'd bring them home, I'd scan them on my scanner, which was huge and took probably 3 minutes to do a scan. It was terrible slow. Anyway, made it work. Had to use their templates for my web page. Basically, you just plugged in the information and the pictures, and you could choose from maybe, I think at the time, 10 different styles. It's crazy when I think back on it now, but at the time it was absolutely fantastic. I was on the World Wide Web. Shortly thereafter, I got my first real computer. It was a Packard Bell, I think a PB450. 33 megahertz processor speed, Yeah, not gigahertz, megahertz. 128 megabytes of RAM, and a big whopping 240 megabyte hard drive. It ran the new Windows 3.1. Still no start button, but it did have a lot more features, and it could do a lot more with the hard drive and sorted other stuff you could plug into it. It seemed incredibly fast at the time, but compared to today's standards, we probably have more computing power in our washing machines these days than I had in that computer. I found out also a little later on that upgrading it was not rocket science. A little more involved than changing a light bulb. You unplug the old and you plug in the new. Remember which wires went where. It was a snap. So I was able to upgrade it to 66 megahertz of processing power. I doubled the memory to 256 megabytes, and I installed a 450 megabyte hard drive. Also about this same time, I heard of another online company called America Online. They were pretty new, pretty similar to CompuServe, except they had a lot flashier, fancy user interface. But the most important thing with them, they offered what they called the unlimited plan. And for, I think at the time, it was $10 a month. You could be online 24/7 if you wanted to. It didn't matter how long you were online. Unlimited meant unlimited. About that time, Windows 95 had come out. And it was so superior to 3.0 and 3.1. Serious. It was like a whole new world. And one of the best things at the time about Windows 95 is that it came with a pre-installed little program called Front Page Express. And what this was a way to compose web pages without knowing anything about HTML coding. It was a what you see, what you get type interface, drag and drop, we call it now. It was great. You could adjust anything, colors, background, size, placement. It was really pretty nifty. As time went on, I came to realize at the time that both CompuServe and America Online, I don't want to say censored the web, but they only allowed their customers to access certain parts of the web. It's not that you couldn't look at dirty pictures or read about Nazi gang clubs or something, but there's just certain areas that you couldn't access. I didn't really like that, and I did a little research and I found a local company called Packlink, P-A-C capital L-I-N-K. They offered for the same price of flat $10 a month, unlimited access but you used your own browser, your own email client. They provided nothing but access. So that was when I began using the built-in Internet Explorer and Outlook Express. Internet Explorer, of course, to do my browsing with, and Outlook Express as my email client. And much more freedom. You didn't have to do what they wanted you to do. You could do what you wanted to do. And it really opened up quite a bit. I was very happy. Of course, up until this time, all internet connection was through the phone lines, through the modem. You know that noise. 56K, which is 56 kilobits per second, is what the modems were rated at. But in my experience, I never got that. The best I ever got was about 36.6 kilobits per second. So, compared to today's standards, it would take us forever to even load a normal web page, let alone something with video or flash content or, YouTube, of course, could never live back in those days. About that time, we moved to East Vancouver, and oddly enough, where we moved was one of AT&T's test areas for their at-home service, like email app, ampersand. Their advertising information sounded very interesting. And incredibly, it was true, and maybe even more so. They boasted speeds at the time of 1.5 megabits per second. So that being 1,000 times, you can do the math. At home was $40 for the 1.5 megabits. So needless to say, it was a great buy. So for $10 more a month, I had taken my speed 300 times faster. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. Unfortunately, I didn't do the math. But anyway, they've done nothing but get better and faster. And now for $5 more a month, $45 a month, I get 12 megabits per second download speeds. Sometimes even faster than that on a good day. But so that's pretty incredible.